that created such a deep fear inside of me that I still feel to this day.
Every business is unique.
But the ups and downs we experience as we launch and run our businesses are pretty similar.
We're Harmon Brothers, the team behind Pooping Unicorns and other weird but successful video ads you've probably seen.
We help businesses grow through unforgettable video marketing, and we're no stranger to tricky situations. In fact, we embrace them.
The goal of this podcast is to show how your crappy circumstances could be the golden opportunity that leads to your next success.
You're watching Poop to Gold.
Welcome back to From Poop to Gold. I'm Benton Crane, your co-host and the CEO of Harmon Brothers. Today I have a very special guest with me. I am joined by Chris Guerriero. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
Chris has built 11 different companies, 4 of which are 8-figure companies. This is a great privilege to have him here because it's rare to find somebody who has driven that much success throughout their career. Chris, I want you to talk for just a second to our audience, which is mostly entrepreneurs and wantrepreneurs, and tell us what you're up to today.
What am I up to today? I'm trying to spend a lot more time with my kids and get very lean on what I'm doing in business so that I am mono-focused and can get as much done in a shorter period of time as possible, which really means figuring out what few actions drive the majority of growth in each one of my organizations, and where I could bring the most value, and putting the majority of my mental bandwidth right there.
Got it. And business-wise, where is that mono-focus going?
It's going mostly into our venture capital firm and into our advisory company. Right now in the advisory company, we just started, funny enough, right before COVID, we started an events company.
Rough timing.
And put the majority of that on hold and did a lot of virtual events, which was wonderful. It was a great pivot for us. But that's pretty much where we're spending the majority of our time. You know, everything else is leading the leadership teams in each one of the companies. So the great majority of my time each day, and we could get into my schedule during the week if you want to, but the majority of my time is spent in leadership team meetings in the mornings of almost every single day of the week. And I work with the leaders in each one of the companies going over basically 3 things, which keeps my finger on the pulse of everything inside the company and allows me to push things forward in, using my core competencies.
Gotcha. So the venture firm, that's an investment firm where you guys find great companies and then you make investments into those companies.
Yeah. Venture capital is really is such a hodgepodge of different ways that you could run a venture capital firm. There's so many people who come to us for funding. So we see 15 plus prospectuses a week. It's pretty crazy. Our particular firm brings 3 things to the table. We go out there and we look for companies that we could bring not just money to, but also experience and relationships. So when we go in there, we're only investing in a company that we know for a fact we have a core competency in, and we'll be able to bring that core competency and a little bit of money and some relationships and help them to scale in a big way.
Gotcha. So is there a particular niche or industry that you guys focus your investments into?
So there's a lot of venture capital firms that only deal with SaaS or only deal with tech or only deal with offline companies like that. Our firm deals more in core competencies. So if we have core competencies that we can bring to the table that we see are slightly lacking in a very, very strong company otherwise, then it's usually a good fit. So we're in a variety of different industries, which makes it a lot of fun for us because we're able to learn things from different industries and then bring them into any of the other companies that we invest in or any of the companies that are inside of my personal portfolio and cheat and grow faster.
So give me an example of these core competencies. Are we talking like you guys are supply chain experts, you're operations experts? What would be one of those that you would bring?
So we do have one of the partners that is a supply chain expert. I am absolutely not. I could speak to my core competence. My core competence are leadership, understanding how to locate, onboard, and then manage great leaders, turning people who are not necessarily leaders inside of a company into great leaders inside the company if they have that emotional intelligence. Also systematizing things as we're growing. People, processes, and systems are the 3 things that I bring to the table when I go in.
Love it, because the leadership team of any given company is the difference between success and failure. Yep. So to have that core competency to not only be able to identify those, but to develop them, that's a really big deal. Okay, Chris, so this is the Poop to Gold podcast. And every successful person has been through some poop along their journey in order to get to the gold, so to speak. Take us somewhere dark, somewhere where you don't really like to go back to, and tell us a little bit about what was going on in that really dark moment.
Yeah, so there's been a lot of dark moments, and I could probably pick one for each year that I've been in business. And I've been in business for many, many years. So that's a lot of darkness. But I'm going to go back to, I guess, a story that I've only told a couple of times in my life. And that's about my father, who was the VP of a large housing development company. He was with that company for my entire life up until I was in my 20s. And I forget what year it was in my college. I think it was probably my sophomore year of college. I got a call from my family letting me know that that company just sold, and a younger person came in and purchased the company. And he did basically one of the things that I do inside my venture capital firm right now. When I go into a company, I look to cut away some of the fat and improve upon the great things inside that company so that we could gain faster momentum. However, he did it in a very different way than I've ever done it. He went in there and he said, who's the highest priced people inside of this organization? Who are the people who are paid the most? Let's just cut them out. That way they don't show up on our financials, and we will be much more profitable from day one. And that sucked. My father was up there on the top and he got let go.
So he's not even looking at the cost benefit analysis. He's not even saying, what is this person bringing to the table? He's only looking at the cost side of the equation.
Absolutely. And by the way, I guess I'm paraphrasing because I was in my 20s at the time. I didn't know the guy personally, but that's the way it seemed on my end. And that's what I heard around the dinner table. And it was disheartening, and it was scary as heck. I remember running to a buddy of mine's dorm room and explaining to him what was going on. And I didn't know if I was going to have to drop out of college to help my family financially. I didn't know what was going to go on. I mean, it was a super scary time.
This is like a bomb was just dropped on your family.
Yeah.
And so then all of a sudden you're going, whoa, like my family's hurting. Do I need to go back? Do I need to go help? Do I need to go focus on my family? How does this impact me? What are some other questions going through your head at that point?
So I don't think I was thinking about how it was going to impact me. My dad was always and still is a mentor of mine. And I mean, he's taught me how to be a good man. Like I admire so much about him. I was worried about how it was going to be affecting him. I didn't know what he was going to be doing next. And I also didn't know what was going to be happening financially with my family. I grew up in a family that didn't talk finances. So I just knew that whatever was going on was no longer going on anymore. And so there was this scariness, darkness, like you were saying before. But then, shortly after that, I found out that he and a buddy of his who was also in the housing industry got together and they were going to pool their money together and they're going to buy a marina, because part of the marina had a bunch of property to it. So they were going to rent out the slips in the marina to boat owners so that they could park their boat in the summertime. But they were also going to build these townhomes on the property.
So it's kind of a cash flow investment with the slips, and then it's a growth investment with the townhome opportunity.
Right. So wonderful business model. I mean, it would have worked out very, very well. And I started working there in the summers between semesters. And it was really interesting to see these two guys who were employees try to be entrepreneurs. And
speaking of your dad and his business partner.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and it was just them running the show. I mean, they had, I believe, one employee who would help with the marina, and me, who was their son, who would go there and pick shit up and do things around the boats and whatever. But it was scary because I watched them make a lot of very poor decisions, and I would jump in every once in a while to talk to them about some way to market or some way to handle customer support better or some way to do something. And I would always get shot down because I was a kid, obviously. Mm-hmm. So the housing market collapsed a couple of years after they started this. And as soon as the housing market collapsed, the bank wanted to pull their note, and that company went bankrupt. And I got that news when I was in college as well. I had gone back to my next semester, and I got that news, and it was disruptive, to say the least. And I remember I was sitting inside of a class. It was a nutrition class, and I was listening to the professor, and the professor was talking about, I don't even know what she was talking about. I was designing a business card, and I was trying to figure out how, when I go back home this summer, how I was going to start a business. And I ended up starting a personal training company. I designed my business card. I also designed my flyer, my first flyer to get clients inside of that nutrition class, because I loved working out at the time. And I figured that's something that I've got some skill set around. Let me do that. And I did. And I built this company that was just me and a bunch of independent contractors. And I found a great way to get trainers to work for me and to get clients. And we ended up developing this thing where we had almost 150 trainers within a year up and down the East Coast who I was supplying, clients to, and the money. And it was amazing. And it was based on one principle that has followed me to every single company that I've built in any industry. And that was, I wanted to help the greatest number of people possible, and then fill in the blank for whatever company I was building. For the personal training company, it was wanted to help the greatest number of people possible to achieve their health and fitness goals. And then, in every other company, I kind of molded it, but we've always had that at the heart of every company. And that personal training business turned into a health club, which turned into a chain of health clubs, which turned into a fitness book, and then a series of fitness books, and then a TV show in the fitness industry, and then selling that whole organization and going into the venture capital field, and then creating a branding company and creating there's a legal company now in our portfolio. We've got, a variety of different things that have spanned out from my core competency, right? 8 strong core competencies that we had. Every single company inside of our portfolio are synergistic to all the other ones. So each one supports the others to help them grow. It's fun. It's like a game now.
So do you feel like that bankruptcy that happened, is that part of what pushed you, to start your own business and to figure that out and to say, you know what, I'm not going to make these same mistakes?
That created such a deep fear inside of me that I still feel to this day. It's a fear of failure, a fear of, inside of one of our companies, I'm very focused on the lifetime value of customers. I'm very focused on relationships with our customers, with our prospects, with our teams, with everybody, really building what I believe will be a cohesiveness so that the companies don't fail. And I believe that is the heart of every company, the relationships and the values that we have in there and the culture that we build. And I believe that the lessons that I learned early on from my father in business spurred on that love of relationships inside of our companies. So I don't know if that answers your question, but it's more of a fear thing than it is anything else, I guess.
Now, you described it as a fear, but then you talked about the love of relationships. Help me understand what the fear is.
So the fear is of failure. In my opinion, in my experience, the solution to that is, what can I do inside of each of our companies to make sure that we don't fail? And it's developing stronger relationships. I believe that, if my father and his partner had much stronger relationships with the bank, that they would have given them a lot more leniency. I believe if they had much stronger relationships with their vendors, they would have been able to postpone some of the expenses that they had. I believe if they had better relationships with the boat owners, maybe they could have gone out there and sold them the next year of slip ownership in advance for half price or something in order to bring in some. I believe relationships leveraged properly in a good way so that it's a win-win all across the board always helps people to succeed.
Man, I can relate to that fear you're talking about. I grew up poor. Both of my parents they grew up as farmers in Idaho. They had hard work deeply ingrained in them, but they never learned, the basic principles of finance and economics or even business or any of those things. And so they struggled to provide for our family. And I remember as a little kid, I couldn't have been older than, it must have been 10 or 11 years old. We're just deciding that I didn't want to follow in that same pattern, and I wanted to learn those principles that my parents didn't. And so now, to this day, that fear of not being able to provide for my family, it runs so deep in me. I can't think of many things that scare me worse than not being able to provide for my family.
Yeah, that'll keep you up at night, right? In a cold sweat.
Yeah, it really does. Well, awesome, Chris. I appreciate you taking us to that place. I think there are a lot of entrepreneurs out there right now who are finding themselves in the middle of their own poop moment. And I think it's really encouraging to hear from people who have been through that and who can now look back at it and see, you know what? It actually made me who I am, and I'm grateful for the experience. So thank you for going there. Talk to me about where our listeners can go to follow you.
The primary hub is our website, chrisguerriero.com, but I give a tremendous amount of content on YouTube on our channel. Again, it's Chris Guerriero on YouTube, and every single one of those is pure content. Like there's nothing in there that is pitching anything. I just want to give and make sure that the people who really do want to scale are building their companies right, so that we limit these companies that are living launch to launch or living paycheck to paycheck.
And just to wrap up, one final question. If you had to give an entrepreneur one piece of advice, here we are sitting at the beginning of 2021, hopefully at the tail end of a pandemic, what is that one piece of advice that you would offer today?
Don't do it alone. I would say don't do it alone. And it is, I guess there's a lot of different ways to go with that one. First, if you don't have a business or if you're struggling to get your business off the ground, I would say go out there and find a partner if you can. Somebody who you could go through the blood, sweat, and tears with, somebody who brings a complementary core competency to the table, and you guys, meaning women, men, everything, you work together to grow something in a big way. But if you have the ability to have team members also, not just partners, then I would say don't do it alone, but do it with people who are experts, who are team players, who are super passionate about helping you excel. And let's take that to the next level. If you have a successful company and you just need to keep scaling, still don't do it alone. One of the best things that I ever did inside of my companies was create a board of directors. That's the umbrella. Inside of each one of our organizations, we have a board of advisors. So I would never go into a company right now. I wouldn't put money into a company as an investor. I wouldn't start a company as a partner or an owner unless that company had a board of advisors, because a board of advisors is the fastest way to collapse timeframes and shortcut your success curve to go from 0 to 7 or 0 to 8 or even 0 to 9 figures if you put the right people in place, because you're not doing it alone. You're surrounding yourself with great people.
Getting their collective wisdom and experience.
Absolutely.
Chris, thank you for coming on the show. We appreciate you sharing your experience and your knowledge with our listeners.
Thank you. It was awesome.
Now, make sure to like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one. At Harmon Brothers, we're known for what we call our hero campaigns. These are big nationwide campaigns for brands like Squatty Potty, Poopery, Purple Mattresses, Lumi Deodorant, and many others. What makes these campaigns special is that they've helped scale those businesses by tens of millions of dollars each. Now, companies reach out to us on a regular basis wanting a hero campaign. They want that type of growth, they want that type of branding, and they want that type of awareness. But the simple reality is, most businesses and entrepreneurs aren't yet quite ready for that level of growth. So we've built what we call a hero incubator that is designed to help entrepreneurs and companies prepare for a hero campaign and to be ready for the type of growth that they're looking for. The Hero Incubator starts with a marketing audit. We offer these marketing audits for free, and you can apply for one at harmonbrothers.com/audit.